What is up, YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and welcome to the 5th video in my League of Legends beginner guide. So today's video is going to cover the item store, items, and stats. So if you've watched the tutorials up to this point, you will have heard me mention various stats, such as attack damage, ability power, lifesteal. So this video is going to cover all of that and a lot more. So let's go right into it. So as you can see, I'm back at home base, and in every base there is a store. This guy right over here. So the default keybind, you can either click it or you can hit P on your keyboard to access the store immediately. So every character has a recommended item set given by Riot, where they believe, these are the types of items you should get early game, these are what you should start with, offensive items, defensive items, blah, blah, blah. If you have an item set, you can come up to this drop-down menu over here and click your specific item set so that the in-game store will change to the items that you've set. So if you also want to browse or search items, you can search up here. So if I search longsword, it will come up. If you want to just browse all items like this and select and sort by the different categories, you can do that. There is no AFK warning. I'm just going to run around. So you can just browse through the store like this. And so every item, okay, there are base level items, so like the longsword, right? Longsword gives you 10 attack damage. You just pay 350 gold and you'll have the longsword. But if you have an item, let's say like the Duskblade of Drakthar, it costs 3,250 gold. But as you can see, there's like a tree, a hierarchy of things that you build into it. So the first thing you would do is you would buy 2 longswords, or you could just buy a BF sword if you'd like. But the 2 longswords will build into the Serrated Dirk. And then once you have the Serrated Dirk and once you have the BF sword, you can then save up and get the Duskblade of Drakthar. Or if you just have 3250, you could just afford that completely outright. But whenever you're building an item like this, it's always good to build, it parts first, so that you get more stats as you're working towards the full completed item. So that is the basics on the store and item hierarchy. It's honestly pretty simple once you look through it. There's different types of items, like consumable ones, so like potions, which heal you as you take them. Vision wards and vision trinkets, which I will go over in the I believe it is the 8th video, where I go over wards and other things of that nature. And you can just continue to sort by health regen, health, whatever tools, and however you want to narrow it down. So the big thing of this video that I wanted to cover is stats. So the way that stats work in League is, where the hell am I? Okay, I'm over here. So if you see in the bottom left, or if you click C, you can expand it. This is your stat pane. These are the stats that your character has, and different stats do different things. So let's start with attack damage. Attack damage increases the amount of damage you do with basic attacks. In addition to that, attack damage for certain champions can also make your ability stronger. So you're probably going, well, Dottz Gaming, how do I know what abilities get increased by my attack damage? It's pretty simple. So if you hover over the ability, right, you see deals 50 plus 11 plus 14 magic damage to the target and applies 2 shift poison for 3 seconds. That's the active of my 2 shift poison. Now, do you see next to the 50, the plus 11 is in orange? That means it scales off of attack damage. Okay, then next to it you have the, I think that's like a very, very light green, that plus 14, that is ability power. So that is how you know whether or not an ability scales off of attack damage or ability power. In this case, 2 shift poison scales with both. As you can see, my Jack-in-the-Box and my Hallucinate only scale, see, it's the light green, so it only scales with ability power, which is your other offensive stat. Ability power increases the amount of damage dealt with abilities. So attack damage not only increases my auto attack damage, but for certain abilities it will increase the ability damage, and then ability power gives no effect to my basic attacks, and for certain champions will increase their what's it called? Their ability damage. So, like, there are other abilities in other champions. So, like Master Yi is an example. His abilities, well, except for his W, but some of his abilities only scale with attack damage. So you can get 1,000 ability power, but it's not going to make those abilities that only scale and get stronger with attack damage. It's not going to make them any stronger because they don't scale with that stat. So that's actually I covered ability power too. So that's how attack damage and ability power work. Now armor. Armor reduces the amount of damage you take from physical attacks. Pretty simple. So if somebody is dealing a lot of physical damage to you, you're going to want to build armor. And you know who... I'll go over champions in a later video. I believe I covered that in video 6. So the next video I'm going to go over specific champions and how you know what kind of damage they do. But if you're going against an attack damage type champion, you're going to want to build armor. You can even click on them. So if there's an enemy in the game, right, you can click on. So I'll click on this menu, and if you see in the top left, you can see their stats. If you notice that their attack damage, if they're getting a lot of attack damage, odds are you obviously want to build armor. If they're getting a lot of ability power, you want to build magic resistance, because magic resistance reduces the amount of damage you take from magical damage. So that's generally how you know. You have attack speed. Attack speed increases your basic attack per second. Very simple. You have cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction allows you to cast abilities more often. You can have up to 40% cooldown reduction. So you max out at 40% cooldown reduction unless you take a certain mastery from the cunning tree, which allows you to get 45% cooldown reduction. So, you know, my Q baseline, my Deceive, has an 11-second cooldown after my invisibility. So after my invisibility runs out, it goes on cooldown. But if I get cooldown reduction, it makes it so that 11 seconds becomes a much shorter duration, so I'll be able to use my Deceive more often. Critical Strike. Critical Strike grants a chance to deal increased damage on basic attacks. The base critical damage bonus is 200%. So basically your auto attacks will have a chance to crit and deal extra damage off of a certain percentage. Pretty straightforward. You have... Okay, I'm still here, don't worry. Then you also have movement speed. Movement speed increases the speed at which you run. Only one pair of boots at a time can increase your movement speed. So, in the store, there are these things called, where the heck are boots? Boots of speed. So, 99.9% of the time you're going to want to get these as, like, after your first item to give you some extra movement speed, plus 25 movement speed. Well, not 99% of the time after your first item, but almost everybody in the game was going to be building boots at some point. So, you can only have, limited to one, you can only have one pair of boots at the same time. And then boots can be upgraded to have other stats, so my boots will also give me additional attack speed, and then as I upgrade them, it will give me more attack speed, more movement speed, excuse me. So it goes from plus 45 movement speed on those tier 2 boots, but these tier 1 boots only have plus 25, so it's always worth it to upgrade your boots for the most part. So that is movement speed. Now if I hold C, I can look at this, except for if it'll let me. I'm on my laptop, so... Oh, I can't move my mouse and hold C at the same time. So, that's health regeneration, the rate at which your health regens. The thing below it is armor penetration. So it is how much armor do I pierce through. So if someone's building armor, right, if someone's stacking a lot of armor, you want to build armor penetration so that you can penetrate the armor and weaken their defenses. Same thing if somebody's building a lot of magic resist, you want to build magic penetration so that you can penetrate their magic resistance. Obviously, you don't need to build magic penetration if you deal physical or attack damage, because they're building magic resist. They're not going to be able to defend against your attacks any better. You know, and if you deal magic damage and someone's building flat armor, armor's not going to defend against your magic attacks. So there's no need to build armor penetration. So that pretty much makes sense. You only obviously need to build armor penetration if you're a physical damage dealer and you need to pierce through armor, and you bang magic penetration if you're a magic dealer and you need to pierce through magic resistance. And then that's down the bottom is just your attack range, and then the rest of those stats up there. There's just like really extra stuff. You don't really need to know too much about it. So guys, when it comes to items, you want to build situationally a lot of times. So you don't just want to have the same cookie cutter build every game that works for some champions, but for others it really helps to build as the situation goes on. So you're probably wondering, well, how do I know what to build and when? I've said it a little bit, but I'll just recap one more time. If there's somebody on the other team who's dealing a lot of magic damage and you want to handle them, you want to have some magic resistance. So this Maw of Malmortius, as you can see, gives me plus 40 magic resistance. It also gives me some other stats and some cool passives, but for the most part, I want that for the magic resist. You know, if somebody on the other team is doing a lot of physical damage and I need some armor to deal with them, right? Here's a Guardian Angel, it's got plus 60 armor on it. You know, I could build armor to handle them. If I want to deal more damage, I can build something with AD. Infinity Edge gives me plus 70 AD and even gives me some critical strike. The thing with items is they're very different and very situational based on the champion. What I would recommend doing is going on to, you've heard me mention this website before, champion.gg. You want to go onto that website, you want to look up the most common builds for your champion, and that's what you should be building for the most part. The thing with itemization and buying items properly is it really is a skill that gets learned as you play more and more. But I believe after this video and after a lot of the general information I've given you about the shop and stats and other stuff, you should be good to go. Now, one stat I actually forgot to mention is called Lifesteal. I'll just say it real quick. Lifesteal basically makes it so that your auto attacks will heal you for a portion of their damage. So if you have 10% lifesteal and you auto attack someone, 10% of your auto attack damage you get healed for. There used to be a stat in the game called Spell Vamp, which would be the same thing for abilities, but now that's only bundled into certain champions' abilities, and I don't think you can buy that stat anymore. So that basically covers it, guys. That is your rundown on the shop and how items work and how stats work and all that stuff. So I hope this was helpful. Keep in touch for the rest of the series. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.